Okay, so we're learning a Maamar on this week's Parshas Balak, short Maamar. And if we have time, we're going to start learning on the early years of Yud Beis Tamuz in Tafshin Yud 1950. Okay. Okay, so the Pasuk says, let's bring up the Pasuk. This is a Pasuk actually for those in Eretz Yisrael, it's today's Chitas. So it says, this is in the, so to say, blessings of Bilam. So he says in Pasuk 9, get the chapter. Pasuk 9, I guess, chapter 23. So it says, Ki Merosh Tzurim Eranu. From the beginning, I see them as mountain peaks. Migva'os, Giva is a hilltop, and as behold, Ashirenu, and behold them as hills. Hein am levadav yishkain v'goyim leis chashev. See a nation that will dwell alone. It will not be reckoned among the nations. Okay, so that's Kiresh Tzurim Ashirenu. The Rashi says, because he quotes the Rashi, the Maamar, Ani mistakel bereshisam v'tchilas sharshehem. I look at their beginnings and their origin, their roots. And I see that they are strong and sturdy, kitzurim and voice, like hilltops, like mountaintops and hilltops. Through our forefathers and our mothers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay, so now let's see the Maamar. The Rebbe says, I'm having double the Maamar here. All right. Merosh Tzurim Eranu. So the Maamar says, again, the pasuk's Kiresh from mountaintops, Eranu with voice, and from hilltops, Ashirenu. So what was it? Ashirenu is behold. Okay. Is Hine Ze Oimrim Yisrael. This is a reference. Bilam is talking about the Jewish people. Even the Kol Echad Yisrael, every single Jewish person. Be'eze matziv sheyimtza. Yes, the Maamar from the 16th of Tamuz Tafshin Lamadad 1974. Be'eze matziv sheyimtza. In any situation that he or she finds themselves, is who ben Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Doesn't take away the fact that he or she is a child of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, ubas, or a daughter of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Means that doesn't change the fact, no matter who that person is. Like the Rebbe says, be'ezeh matzav sheyimtza. In any situation the person finds himself. And they are the foundation of that's what the foundation is. The foundation of this is the hilltops and the mountains. The Tzurim koach obvious because the mountains are referring to the fathers, and Givais and the hilltops are the mothers. So that is our foundation. That's how like Rashi says, our shorish, our roots. Rashi, like Rashi says, when I look at the Jewish people, Royim, I see, what are their foundations, Visharsha, and their roots, Makarv, and their source. The mountains and the hilltops, which are the fathers and mothers. And this is effective for the Jewish people in all times, because why? If it's in Torah, the Torah and Torah is everlasting. This is not a Maamar into Shabbos, so we have to what we say in Yiddish haltkah. So there's no if it's in Torah, then it's it's for all times. You can't say that a Jewish person that once upon a time lived in times of Bilam or Moshe, then he or she is Yisoid, rooted in the forefathers. No matter who that person is in every situation of that person's life or in any situation in time, every Jew could say about themselves and feel secure that our foundation and our rooted and our strength is in our fathers and our mothers. Everything that is here below in this world is nishtal from above. Means if there's the reason it shows itself here is because there's a root about like this in the higher spheres. Meaning to say, Shinyonim Elu, the Surah Big Voice, this fact that we have mountaintops and hilltops, which are the obviously mice, Yisrael, which we're referring to, that fathers and mothers and the Jewish people are rooted in the strength of our fathers and our mothers. In Sayim K'may Kein Lamal, we find this also above, who, meaning to say, the Fiha Pirush Hasheni B'Pasik Merosh Tzurim, there's another explanation, which says, Ma Disa B'Zohar, the Zohar says, Mavor Baruch of Bir Zohar, and is explained in the explanations of the Zohar to Adamar Tzoi, the Mittel Rebbe, that's Mechsadik, and the third Rebbe of Chabad, grandson of the Alter Rebbe, the son-in-law and nephew of the Mittel Rebbe. The Shaykh, the Pirush said, the Pirush Zohar, Harzar Kamoy, Shehulamal, the Zohar is the explanation, the perspective of this pasuk, Merosh Tzurim Eranu, Mugvais Asherenu, from a perspective from above. The Sham and Rashi, that we just learned before, that's the way a Jew is rooted in our parents, meaning that for Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, it's commercial lamatas from the perspective of below. And they're dependent on each other. The reason they come together, there's questions from what perspective are you looking at it? Because anything that happens in this world is where it is above. Is that too? What they're saying is that we are in this part of the Maamar is just a side point. When you have something that we say this is the way it is from the Das El, from the way things are above. If it's the way and then there's the way things are below. They're not two separate things. They may express themselves differently, but they're nostalgical. They come from each other. Meaning to say, like a chain is a chain reaction, right? So if it's like that above, maybe in the spiritual spheres, we're rooted in what's called Tzurim and Gvois, and as the Zohar is going to explain, and therefore it shows itself in this world in our roots of our forefathers of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And as the Rebbe is going to explain in this way. But what does the Maamar say? Tziyura v'dikuna the avui israshi be'mamish. So just wanted to get the English right. So he says over here. Thank you for Google Translation. He says that the image and the likeness of his father were literally engraved within him. Okay, what does that mean? That's what the Zohar says. Siyura v'dikuna, the diukna is like the image, so to say. The avuya of a father, Rashi, they are literally rooted in them. The hine, meaning to say seemingly what Rashi is saying is the strength of the Jewish people is our connection to our forefathers. Here we're saying is milamayla, it is that literally what our forefathers have is rooted within the Jewish people. Bihine. So here he explains the Maamar fantastically like this. Yisrael hu bezam. There's the way Yisrael, even within the worlds of the chain of creation, the name Yisrael, or the Jewish people, is in Zer Ampin, which is called the small complexion, which represents usually the world of midos, the attributes. So Yisrael hu bezam. The Jewish people are within the attributes. That's what we talk about, the 7 parts of the menorah, the 7 midos, chesed, word first, and that's a chayid yisod, that make up the 7 parts of the menorah. But what do we say in the menorah? What did we learn? That miksha, it all comes from one piece. The miksha is the root, the deeper than that. So you have these Yisrael, the way it's in that you have different types of Jewish people. That's why you say 70 descendants of Yaakov, men and women, right? You have discounted. They're all rooted in Yaakov Avinu, 7 times 10, because each midah is broken up into 10, is 70 descendants of Yaakov. So you have the 7 midos, which is Yisrael is in Zer Ampin, that's the 7 midos. So when we see the Jewish people, so we say that they're rooted Merosh Tzurim in the mountains. I see, when I pay attention, Era means that when I focus and look at the Jewish people. You have to realize they're coming from the top of the mountain. It's not good enough to see the way what meets the eye, which is the perspective of the menorah of the Jewish people, the Zer Ampin. But if you look deeper, Eranu, you're going to see they're rooted in the mountains. What's the mountains? We'll see in a second. But you're going to see that they're rooted in the mountains. You have to really pay attention where the Jewish people are in their root and their core and their source, which is in intellect. Now again, the rule is that there's sechel and midos. Intellect, okay, there's different, in Chassidus we kind of sandwich it, where maybe the roots of the midos are deeper than the than the revealed of the intellect. But the intellect, basically, what a person understands, a person uses their mind to develop their midos. It could be the very fact that a person can be very smart or very intellectual with a lot of information, but different people will react differently to information is because of the roots of the midos. I mean, where the midos come from in its source. But in revealing the midos, the gili of the midos, the revelation is based on what you know, based on information. That's why there's so much advertisements to people, is to feed that information to ignite the midas, your reaction. You want your reaction. What is an advertisement? You want you to react to it based on the reaction. Hopefully you'll buy it or click on it, whatever someone's trying to sell. So there's a trigger, right? So the information, so moichin is higher than midas. It means based on a person's moichin, and the way, from the perspective of you see things, is how you react on a higher or lower level. If your moyach is refined, if your intellect, your sechel is refined, so that, and you have clear understanding, the clear purpose, so then you develop reactions, emotional reactions from what you understand. So when what the pasuk is saying, what Bilam is saying, that Merosh Tzurim Eranu, yes, you see the Jewish people as they are in the way they project or the way they're revealed in the midos. Yes, Yisrael and Zerampin. But look deeper, you'll see that there's a deeper connection. There's the sechel, there's the ava, aveim, Chochmah Binah. That's the way the midas are on a higher level. So don't see them for just what you see, what meets the eye, but look deeper where that comes from, which is what's the root of a Jewish person. And that's both in ourselves and both in the Eibishter, in godliness. So therefore the pasuk says, Merosh Tzurim Eranu, look at the top of the mountain. When you pay attention, you have to see Merosh Tzurim. They come really from the top of the mountain. Don't look at them just the way you see them from the perspective of the large complexion. The small complexion, which is the midos. Know that there's something deeper going on up here. See them where they are in the level of Abaim. Now, generally, Abaim again is also much more elevated, much more refined. It's in the moyach of the Creator as well. It's Tzurim Kai Al Bechinas in general. The 7 days of creation are the 7 midos. So you go deeper than that. What's behind the midos? What's behind creation? Meaning to say the Jewish people are not just what you see as part of creation. They're connected to the purpose of a creation. And where's the purpose of creation start revealing itself in the seichel? And God decided that I want to be king. And with the king, the whole picture of creation. So the Jewish people were there before there was the picture of creation. That's what Bilam is saying. When you look at the Jewish people, don't see them as just another part of the story of creation. They are part of the thinking before creation. The mountains is intellect, Eranu, which is Re'iyah, see. Ugvais in the hilltops is Binah, understanding. Asherenu, we say again, what do we translate Asherenu? Is behold. Behold is more of a different, I guess, is more connected to Binah, understanding. Shehem Moichem, both of them are, but both Chochmah and Binah are part of the thinking process. What reveals the emotions is what you're thinking, what you're holding in your intellect. As Tanya says, that Chochmah Binah Das in Perek Gimel, it says, is the Shalish Mois, is the 3 mothers, V'chabad, Nikri Mois, and Maklamidis, the intellect. Chochmah Binah Das is the mothers that are the source of the emotions. The emotions come from what's going on in your head, what's going on with how your thinking processes. Again, there's layers on this subject. And that's why we say that the Bnei Yisrael are the 12 Shvatim. The 12 Shvatim, it says that the Alu, they have to elevate, the Shvatim elevate. They go higher, they go to the world of Atzilus. Usually we explain that Shisham Alu Shifte Yutke is from Bria to Atzilus. Although that's the Yam Shel Shlomo, right? Yam Shel Shlomo had the 7 paras, and you're going upwards towards the Yam, which is Malchus of Atzilus. But the idea is that there's an aliyah, that what you see is not where it's rooted in. But we're not, the Jewish people are not. It's not just what you're seeing. There's something much deeper, which is what the Rebbe is going to explain, is why it runs deep through all times, through all situations, all the way through our behavior until the level of Mesirus Nefesh, because Merosh Tzurim Eranu, because we're connected to the higher than Seder Shtaltis. The Kaya Yisrael Shem Shvatim B'chinas Zav Midas that Sham Alu Shifte Yud Case talking about the Shvatim, which are the level of Zav the Midas. But we say Sham Alu Shvatim that they elevate higher than what they're connected to higher than what you see. Which is why Shlomo Melech made the Yam Shlomo. The Yam Shlomo was this big faucet that had the big sea, and underneath was the faucets of the 12 representing 12 tribes. But to show that this is what you see is just the project. Is only from the Chitzainis, is only what's external, what's been revealed, but there's much deeper rooted than that. All that the Jewish people have an ability, not only do they have a root, but they have an ability to connect to the roots. Yud K is we know Chochmah Binah is in Yud and Hey. Yud is the Chochmah and Hey is Binah. So we know Sham Shifta Yud K, they elevate towards their higher source than Midas, higher than Midas to go to Chochmah. Again, in the sense of creation, which means is God's thinking before creation, because the creation is Bereshit Bara came 7 days is the 7 Midas. Sheshes Yom Vasa. Right? And the second with the 6 Midas. So this, and the 7th is Malchus. But the Jews are rooted, and before all of Machshava, they came even deeper and go like the Rebbe says, the Jewish people are to the essence of connected to the essence of God. At no point are they separate, so to say, from the essence of God, and therefore they're rooted way beyond creation. And that's what Bilam says. You have to see that, know that, and there's a reason why you have to know that. And this comes later to be revealed into the souls. The essence, as you say, a soul of a Jewish person is a part of Mamash Hashem, like I said. So too, we have to understand and be aware of this in our service of God. That my existence is not something and part of this world I was just thrown into the world. I have a purpose that's connected to the purpose that's beyond creation, to serve my master. And the call in Yonav. What's my whole being? My whole purpose is to serve my master. Nisham hu gam kim ba'ifin kiseh. And that could be revealed within the soul of the Jewish person in this world to be connected to our idea of the shamash eskani to serve my master, which it has to be. Rebbe continues, the hine inin hamidois shizel this that we're saying that the midos is the way the Jewish people Israel is in the highest level. Rebbe says that the Jewish people are rooted higher is to the level, even like we said before, into the Chochmah Binah, into the wisdom and understanding, which is the Tzurim and the Gvais, the mountaintops and the hilltops. Just like the Yar and the father and mother, which are literally considered Chochmah Binah. Right? Father, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, is Chochmah. And Binah is where like that an idea that gets developed. So too, the husband gives the seed, which is the Chochmah. And the Binah, the woman can turn that into a child, into a form, which is to break down the idea into Binah. And we should know that in the midas themselves is the way the midah is in Chochmah, which is just like a child in the seed of the father. That's it's so abstract that it's from a distance. It says it's out of place from a distance. The after yeshna kvar mitzvus midas. Although there's midas already, there's the emotional concept in the intellect. But it's not definitive. You can't find it. Because the midas start already. The tendencies again of a person's response to an intellectual happening or an idea is already in Chochmah. Already there's an amida. There's midas b'Chochmah. There's midas already in the intellect. But he says calls it ain't shemadayin sira midas. But there's no form of midas. It's like in the seed. There's the whole, like Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in the seed of the father is the whole baby. It's nothing, it's just a seed, you can't see it. Even that seed would be, when do you start breaking it down into a form that's already an understanding? Like an idea, but you have a flash of an idea and you have to bring it to develop and stretch it out. That's why Yud is Chochmah, Hey is Binah, space versus small dot. even in Bina, this starts the Midas, because Ein Sham Adayin Sira Midas. The Inyan of Bina. It's style of Bina, when you start visualizing the idea, is in Bina. There's no form even of the Midas. It's there. And the Rai is because that, like in the child has a lot of the tendencies of the father. Nevertheless, there's no form of it, there's no image of it. The Tanya says the midas are like first a child is born. In the seed of the father, there's no body, there's no parts of the child in the seed. That only happens in the mother's womb. Then it becomes into a body. Madrigas and different levels. As it remains the 9 months of pregnancy. And it gets the whole form. You see all of a sudden there's a boy or it's a girl, etc. Even though everything is there in the father's seed, but it's not recognized. So to the midas have no form yet. That's the way midas, that's an example of how the emotions are connected to wisdom. Now again, let me see where the sif ends. Okay. So the idea is like this: a dry idea, Chochmah. There's no such thing as something that's intellectual that has absolutely no direction of midas. Take Bisham and Basil. Bisham is always going to find the more gevura. That's the midas, even though they have an argument and they have a basis and it's intellect. But there is that tendency towards gevura is midas. Basil is chesed. So though it's not that it's in the intellect, but it has to be that there's that kind of direction there. Same thing in Chochmah in general. Every idea and every situation has emotions. There's no such thing as intellect that midas. It's almost impossible to separate them, because at the end of the day, is why should you? If it's so balanced without any midas, it may not go anywhere. You need the midas for the flow, for it to go somewhere. In the mind, also there has to have the midas. Chochmah is so deep, it's so rooted in such a. Well, all you see is the idea that there's zero visual of the midos there, because you just see it as a flash of an idea. Slowly, as it goes to Bina, to understanding, you're starting to see what form is this idea in, and you start to recognize it. It's a form of chesed, a form of what are the different components of it. It could be this all seven of the midos in the idea, but still in the Chochmah, still hasn't developed into actual motion, because until the child is born, like he's going to say. Who came by me? Sorry, I think that was before. Sorry, yes. So we'll be back here. Okay, so he says like this. When does it start getting the body? It only is in the mother's womb. Although all the components are there. You don't see it at all. It's like the flash of idea. You can't see any emotional direction. There's no form of the midas, the emotions at all. When it starts going down to Bina, behold, you see something. It's already starting to go outside. Malchus is to go out to communicate outwards. Which means a revealing of the character of this idea. The hasn't gone out to the world yet. Like a baby that hasn't gone out to the world, but still now it's not anymore like it was in the semen by the father. There's already a baby in the mother's womb. It hasn't just gone out to the world yet. It's still concealed in the mother's stomach, but there's already a form. The midas is still concealed within Bina, but there's already form. And therefore, when a person brings it into their emotions and starts to feel it, connect to that, that's why we say that between the mind and the heart is the neck, because it has to take away the intellect to be able to feel the raw emotion. We're talking about this Shem, love and fear of God, etc. Because that, but there is some sort of form, even though it hasn't been given birth yet. The class, like even though the baby is in the mother's womb like a ball, but nevertheless, it's there, it has the shape. Behind you, it has all the details of the shape. Actually, it's all concealed. It's not, it hasn't yet given birth to raw emotions. It's all in the mind of it. Then it has to go through the neck, or at the womb, and get developed to give birth to the idea. It's not the level of reveal here. And that's what we're saying, that Eranu, Merosh Tzurim Eranu, from those voice Asherenu, Jews are rooted in the idea of Hashem. וגם אז יש בהם פעולת חוכמה בינה, כמו שיש עניין זה באובר. רק שמהל, ואין מסיס לעצמי כי מידס כמו שהם בשכל. ואין זה כמו שכבר נולדו, ונסקל המידס. וגם אז יש בהם פעולת חוכמה בינה. Even once it gets born, we have the intellect, that's why it was born in such a way. כמו שיש עניין זה באובר. שאף לאחרין שנולד, הריקושים אביהם, a person still connected to the parents. נקמוי כן הוא כאן. The midas is always connected. That's the way the intellect goes in to control the midas. But then there's, before it gets developed, before it gives birth, this way it's only in the intellect. The Chochmah, and what is that? What's the effect it has on the person? So Chochmah, for instance, gives a person bittul. It means when Chochmah goes into the midas, it keeps the bittul, that you shouldn't get lost, you shouldn't start developing your own sort of character. Even though Binah has an understanding and it also controls the heart. The difference between the effect of Chochmah on persons already developed midas is that the Chochmah keeps it in a level of bittul. Binah keeps a person in check. Like moach shalta lelev, but the lev is already its own mitzias. Yesh behem bechinas is chalkus, and therefore the separations, there's moments, there's times. Actually, it gives space because a person is a person of intellect. Therefore, it has some hold on the midos. Midas can be effective on midas. So too is the Jewish people. Within the Jewish people themselves, is the people that are like the heads of the Jewish people. Then there's the 10 levels, like it says in Parashat Nitzavim. And if you have to have the Rebbe, you have to have a Nasi, the head, that's constantly giving bittul and moach shalta leiv to the way the Jewish people are developed. But Bilam saying, but look, on all that, look where they come from. So each person has within themselves all these stages. Okay, we're going to continue the Maamar tomorrow. Again, short Maamarim. This is actually a difficult Maamar, but the idea is very deep in what we're trying to explain about. What Bilam is saying is the power of the Jewish people, and therefore that level is always there and it's always available, and therefore there's never a situation where a person has to feel disconnected. That's the bottom line. As we shall continue as Hashem tomorrow.